Hi everyone, welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to show you how I made this cute little luau punch art invitation for my daughter's graduation party. Okay, the first thing I did was punch the cardstock pieces I needed, and I'll list those at the end of my video on my supply list, but let me go over them quickly. The first thing you need is a 1 3/8 inch circle in Early Espresso and a 1 inch circle. Then you need a 1 3/8 inch circle in Old Olive, and again in Blushing Bride, along with a 1 inch circle in Blushing Bride and the small heart punch in Blushing Bride. I used a designer series paper and the large oval to punch this piece. And then for these flowers, I've used the Itty Bitty Shapes Punch Pack punch and the 2-step owl punch to create the centers. I've done my flowers in Daffodil Delight and Rose Red and then coordinated the centers just in reverse. I've also used the large oval punch to punch 4 Old Olive pieces and the Modern Label punch to punch these 3 in soft suede, and I'm sponging the edges of these Modern Label pieces with soft suede also to kind of give them some definition and depth. Then here I've got 3 half-inch circles that I've punched from chocolate chip cardstock, and the final piece is the sand, which I'm using crumb cake for. So let me set these aside and I'll show you how I assembled her. The first thing I'm going to do is create the sand, and I'm using a piece of scrap crumb cake cardstock. I've protected my area because this can get messy, and I've loaded my soft suede marker into my color spritzer, and I'm simply going to pump this little bulb until I get the coverage that I'm happy with. The next step on this is to add my sand to my card front. I've started with my 5x7 Island Indigo base, and I've taken a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 Pool Party cardstock and run it through the Big Shot using my Clouds embossing folder that you can find in the spring catalog. Next I'm going to add some adhesive, and I like to use the multi-purpose adhesive for punch art. It's simply a little easier to work with, and you can apply it into tight small places much easier than you can with your snail. And so I've just layered those 2 pieces of crumb cake onto my card front. Now I'm ready to start assembling my girl, and I like to do this separately and then add it to my card front, but the preference and how you do it is up to you. I'm going to start by taking my Blushing Bride 1 inch circle and applying it to the front of my 1 3/8 inch Early Espresso. And I chose Early Espresso because my daughter's hair is dark brown and I wanted this little girl to look like her. Next I've taken the 1 inch circle punch and I've cut it in half, and I'm applying just one of those halves to the top of that 1 inch Blushing Bride circle. The other piece you can get rid of, it's not needed at this point. And now I'm taking the body and creating the arms. I've got the 1 3/8 inch circle in Blushing Bride, and I'm adhering that wide oval designer series piece of paper to the center so that the 2 arms are there on the side. The skirt here is a little bit of fun because you have to do some additional punching to this piece of 1 3/8 inch Old Olive. I'm going to take my 1 3/8 inch circle, and I'm simply going to slide it down, and I hope you can see this. It's a small little piece that I'm cutting out just to give me that top shape for the skirt. There you go. The next thing I did for the skirt was I took my paper scissors, Snips, and I simply made some vertical cuts for the grass of the skirt. And it's getting close, so I like to flip it over and finish it out. And you don't have to worry about these little pieces being even. Part of the beauty is they don't have to be. I've added a little bit of adhesive to the top of my skirt and placed it on my girl. And this has a little bit of room to wiggle. And I've added a little bit of adhesive here at the neck and popped my head on. And like I said, the multi-purpose adhesive is easy because you can just put a little dot and keep going. So I'm adding the little flowers for her lei and her hair piece, And once again, that adhesive is great because you can move it around a little bit once you have placed things. And the third flower finally for the neck. Press them where I want them. And this little piece of heart, that make up the feet, I find is easier to attach to the card front. So now that my girl is finished, I can pick her up, get my card front, and add her. And I kind of know this is roughly where I want her simply because I made quite a few of these as party invitations. Adding a little adhesive to the back, and I did not adhere the skirt because I wanted it to kind of move around a little bit. And you can kind of crumple and even crinkle it a bit so that it has more movement. So that's how you do the punch art hula girl. Next we've got the tree. And I've got my 3 modern label punches here that I've spun the edges for. And all I'm going to do is cut these in half and unequal pieces, because what I'm creating is the trunk of that tree, and I want kind of an erratic height and shape to my pieces. And I've done that by cutting them in half randomly and then taking the corners and snipping those off so they don't show. Do that one more time. Like I said, there's no real science to this. It's how you like it. And I'm getting ready next to adhere that. So I'm going to take the longest tree part and place it into the sand where I want it. And I kind of found that by placing it randomly, that you could make this trunk kind of have a crooked kind of wind blown by the sea growth pattern, which I found to be kind of fun. And however tall you want the tree is up to you. I've also done these separately, and you notice in the blog entry on my picture, I did them simply by creating a circle underneath the palm tree here and then building them separately and adding them to the card after the fact. Just depends on how you like to do it. So there's my trunk of my tree. The next thing I'm going to do is take my 4 wide oval old olive pieces, and I've layered them because I can paper snip through too, and it's a little faster. And I am just taking my paper snip and going up both sides of that oval in a random order. And I've even gone back and I've snipped out little chunks on the leaves to give them that palm tree look, or what I think a palm tree looks like. And going to do that one more time so you can see it. Snipping up the sides kind of at an angle randomly. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The randomness is part of its charm. And then clipping out some pieces there. So now my palm leaves are ready. And all I've done is added a little bit of adhesive again to the center and placed them on my card front where I think they look nice and at the angles I want. And I liked it where it went over the outside island indigo. I thought it gave it a little bit of a 3D look, like it was coming off the card. And then the last step I've got are the 3 coconuts. And I suggest either, a small glue dot or, once again, the liquid adhesive. And I'm just going to add that to my tree in the order that I want them. And there you go. That's how I made my Punch Art Lua card. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. It's open 24/7, and you can get there from my blog, www.stampwithjini.com. Thanks for joining me.